Welcome to Life Brand Management with your girl, BC Starks, aka Brittany. Hey, and I hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful holiday season as we approach the end of 2022. Whew, y'all. We made it. It's the end of the year, or it's about to be the beginning of a new year. But let me know if I'm tripping, because I feel like this year has flown by. My goodness. And so much has been packed into this year for so many of us, especially if you're listening to this. You probably can reflect on your year and acknowledge that so much has been packed into this year. Maybe you've gained a lot of wisdom this year. Maybe you've experienced some life-altering things this year. You've evolved into your higher self this year. I hope that you have some great takeaways as you move into the next phase of your journey. As for me, I am hopping on today because I wanted to talk about a cool theme that I've really been working in to practice and develop self-mastery when it comes to this. And if you follow me on social media, specifically Instagram, you've probably seen that I've spoken about this from time to time. I've shared posts. When I get into my creative bag, I share like little creative visuals where I talk about the idea of self-concept or self-image. And this has been a theme for me because if you're on this manifestation journey, it's a theme for all of us, really. Because as we develop in it, we understand that how we see ourselves matters. And I was actually rereading one of my favorite books. I mentioned it in another podcast, and I probably mentioned it in multiple podcasts because it's something that I'm continuing to study from. But it's Psycho-Cybernetics talks about the idea that you can only act from your concept of self and nothing else. And willpower cannot help you, only a change in concept of self. And you guys have heard me talk about, shifting identities in other forms of communication, whether it's my social media, my Instagram page, or even in this podcast. I've mentioned it in a previous episode that, how you identify yourself, the identity that you hold yourself to be in, the labels that you wear. My last podcast I talked about the stories that you tell, the labels that you wear create your identity. Your personality becomes your personal reality, as Dr. Joe Dispenza likes to say. And I can't help but continue to come back to this because it's a very real process to recognize when you have been living out an identity that does not serve who you truly are. Again, we are the sum of the stories that we tell. And when you become awakened to some of the stories that you've been telling, that's one aspect of it, right? The awakening is one aspect. The other aspect is actually working through that stuff. It's working through that stuff. It's working through the realization that, holy shit, I've been telling this story and this is how I've been reacting to my life because of this story I've been telling. Now, this won't resonate with everyone on every page because, again, everybody's had different experiences. But for any of you that are listening that may have had some recent struggles, or you find yourself beating your head against the wall when it comes to certain things in your life that you want to see unfold, that you want to make happen, and you're not seeing it the way that you truly desire it to be, there's many ways to dissect this, right? Like, I know growing up Christian Baptist, we have this phrase, let go and let God, trust God more and things like that. And as I've been on my journey of understanding who we truly are in the eyes of God, in the body of God, is that we are God in human form, and we are creating through our awareness, and we're experiencing God through our awareness. And so what we identify ourselves to be is that awareness, is that God awareness. And because we identify ourselves with whatever the identity is, it's going to play out in our reality. That's what makes us divine creators. That whatever our awareness is, that awareness is God nature. It says, if you're aware of this thing, then it has to be, right? If this is what is in your consciousness, then that is what has to be, regardless of what it is, good or bad, positive or negative. The labels don't matter. You give it the meaning that it has for you, right? But ultimately, whatever that identity is, that consciousness is, that is how we're experiencing God. And that is what makes us divine creators, because no matter what we've been experiencing, we have the ability to shift. We have the ability to change. We can do something about it, right? But a program doesn't just get downloaded in a day, because you didn't become that way in a day. You became that way over time, which means that once you have the awareness of what no longer serves you in terms of your consciousness, the consciousness or the awareness that you have of the self, the awareness that you have of who you think you are, beyond your name, right? We have our names and we have the identity associated. Who is John? John is a doctor who lives here, and those are tangible things, right? But then there's John's personality. John is very stubborn. John doesn't take no for an answer. John is very ambitious, and these are all titles. These are all labels, right? But these labels, we play them out. We play them out according to who we think we are. We really, truly do it. And it doesn't matter what the label is, right? Because, this reality has no respect or regard for positive or negative, good or bad. Like, duality will always exist. But whatever we're believing about ourselves, it has to play out in your reality. It just has to. And so I came back to this lesson because, again, this is something that I'm working through as I'm recognizing things that I have been conscious of or aware of as an identity, and that I feel is no longer serving me because it gets in the way of who I truly am, which is the truth, which is, I'm lacking nothing. I am enough. I am worthy. I am divine. I am, a gift in my own right to this planet at this time. I came here to contribute goodness, and I do have so much value, and I bring so much value, and I can say these things on an intellectual level. But if I'm honest, sometimes I do struggle with some of these concepts because, life experiences may have given me evidence of otherwise, and as I'm learning, our subconscious mind works to make us safe and to make us right. It's going to scan our reality and experiences for evidence, and it's going to give things meaning. We give things meaning. Because this person did this, this must mean that, right? I recently had an experience like that where I made someone's actions mean something about myself that intellectually I knew it had nothing to do with me. I literally told the person, I know what you're doing has nothing to do with me, but because of my own, lens and past experiences in that moment, I made it about me. And I had to retract my reaction. I had to retract how I responded because I'm like, wait a minute, that's not even my stuff, but I'm making it about me. I'm making it about me. And that's literally what so many of us do. We do that. And you're not a bad person for doing it. I just want to put that out there. You are not a bad person for doing it. This is a conditioning it's a conditioned response that you've practiced, right? Just like you've practiced that conditioning response, you can practice something else. And so that's what I've learned to do. I've learned to use my tools to practice and condition myself to a new way of existing, a new way of dealing, or not even dealing, a new way of experiencing my reality and the people in it. I am literally conditioning myself. So every day is a practice, right? It's give yourself the grace forgive yourself instantaneously, forgive other people, know that certain things are just not about you unless you make it about you. And again, that means that you're assigning the meaning, you're giving it the meaning that it has for you. So if that meaning is making you sad or miserable, then there's no one to change but self, as Neville Goddard would say. There's no one to change but self. Change that concept around, change that identity around, change that meaning around. So this version of you that you desire to be doesn't give things the meaning that you've been giving it. That version of you that you desire to be gives things a meaning that is more serving, more supportive of the version of you that you want to be, right? So, not making things about you, not taking things personal that people do or say or circumstances. Stop, not allowing yourself to label yourself because of what you see playing out. Not giving it the meaning that because that thing outside of me is happening, or because that person is, doing certain things, that must mean this about me, or how they see me, or how, what they feel about me. What matters is what you think of yourself, right? And what you think of yourself in relation to circumstances, and what you think of yourself in relation to people. What I've learned is that it's really helpful to have a healthy self-concept, not just, what you think about yourself, like, hey, I'm great, whatever. Okay, that's great. But think about it in terms of like every person in your life. What do you feel every person in your life has in their consciousness about you? Do you feel like people think good thoughts about you? Do you feel like people value you? And even if they don't know how to value you, because maybe they don't know how to value themselves, you don't make that about you. You make their lack of valuing you about them, because it is about them. And you don't give it the meaning that they don't value you. You give it another meaning. You say maybe that person is struggling. Maybe that person is experiencing a lot of pain, and gosh, they don't even have the capacity to show up in a certain kind of way. I'm not going to make that about me. I know I'm valuable. I know that the people in my life value me. I know that I bring great value to this life experience and relationships that I'm engaged in. So I don't need to make that thing mean, that I'm not getting respect or I'm not being valued, because that's not the case at all. It doesn't have to be, right? And you see the way that I reframe that? That's what this work is. It's literally a constant reframing of how you're experiencing your life and the people in it. It's literally a reframing of the circumstances that you're experiencing. Like if you are struggling financially, you don't have to make that mean that you're a failure. You don't have to make that mean that you're never going to be able to have what you desire in life. You don't have to make that mean something so heavy and fixated. You can literally reframe that and say, you know what? This is a temporary season. It looks like on the surface I don't have what I need, but I'm always provided for. I always have what I need. Things always work out for me in the end. So I don't need to worry. I don't need to project onto this circumstance that somehow it needs to mean that it's a strike against my worth and my value. If you may have debt, it's fine. We got to be careful how we label ourselves according to society standards too. Because to me, we've heard the phrase debt thrown around, and there's a lot of negative connotation in certain communities. And I say certain communities because not everybody views debt as a negative thing. There are very wealthy people in this life that actually are wealthy because of debt. They are wealthy because of debt. And so we got to reframe the way we see things and the way we label things in relation to us and our value and our worth. We really have to do that. And that is the true work of the manifestation journey. It's not about getting things, right? The getting of things is reflective of who you really think you are. The getting of things is reflective of who you think you are. And when I say things, I don't just mean material goods. I mean relationships. I mean opportunities. Those are all reflective of who you think you are. And as Psycho-Cybernetics says, you can only get or you can only act from your concept of self and nothing else. And not even willpower Not even the drudgery of doing is going to get you there, right? Only a change in who you think you are, because that's what's sustainable. I think I mentioned in another episode how I love the way that Michael Beckwith broke it down, that people can manifest on a whim, or manifest a modicum of success, or manifest the relationship of their dreams. But if they have not vibrationally become a match to that, meaning if they have not shifted into the concept of self as the one who not only has that relationship, but maintains that relationship, does the inner work to become a vibrational match to maintain that relationship over time, does the inner work to become a vibrational match to maintain the success that they have in their career over time and continue that trajectory of success, right? You got to know that you're a winner to keep winning. You can't just, and granted, you can manifest an opportunity. It'll be right there in front of you. Especially with, all the techniques that are out there. You seeing a lot of clickbait online where people are like, manifest this fast and get your SP fast and manifest money overnight. And it sounds good, right? But if your self-concept is not the concept of one who has these things, deserves these things, is worthy of these things, then you are not fully aligned with it. You will experience it and you'll engage with it, but things will come up inside of you. Your subconscious has beliefs buried in it that if it's not in alignment with a concept of one who is worthy, who is enough, who is already deserving, then that's going to show up. That is literally going to show up. And I keep bringing it back to that is the true work. That is the true work of the manifestation journey. And so you can apply these concepts to anything in your life, anything you may be going through. I'm speaking from my own experiences, but as I'm speaking, I'm hoping that you're reflecting on your own life and your own ways in which you've identified yourself and your own self-concept, and just reflecting on how that's played out in terms of everything, like who you've become, who you are in this moment. You are in this moment the sum of your stories, but that story can be anything, literally anything. If you can align with the concept of self, who has whatever it is you allow yourself to focus on and be aware of and give your attention to, like we truly can become anything that we desire, as long as we can adopt a self-concept that makes that possible. And so that's my message for today. This has been a topic that I've really continued to come back to because it's a part of my mastery. It's a part of me, putting in the work to exercise that muscle of, growing my strength in these concepts that I was never aware of before. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to know that I am not a victim of life. I am not a victim of circumstances. I am not a victim of consequences. I'm not a victim. I am a victor. I'm a victor because my awareness is now expanded. I am a victor because I recognize that I have tools and I have options. I'm a victor because I realize that I can influence what I'm experiencing by influencing myself from within. I can do that. And that is so empowering because let me tell you, I know how life can be discouraging for so many people when you feel like you are helpless and hopeless. I've been there before. So I've hit my bottom and I was able to see that wasn't it. You know what I mean? I was able to see that wasn't it. And I thank God for that. I thank God that I've been able to see that, I have infinite options and it's all up to me. It's all up to me how I allow things to affect me. It's all up to me, whether or not I throw in the towel on certain things. Dreams will manifest, for those who don't quit. People who are winning in life are those who just didn't give up on themselves. And you can't give up on yourself. So if this share today can inspire you to keep going, keep holding space for yourself. Keep, being gracious with yourself, loving on yourself. The same way you would want someone to be with you, be that for yourself. Give yourself grace. Be forgiving instantaneously, right? Because we're all just learning and growing. We're all doing the best we can with what we are conscious and aware of. And so if you can see that in yourself, you can extend that to another. I believe that's what Christ was here to teach us. Christ consciousness is to do unto others as you would do to self. And if you're not treating yourself right, come on now. That's nowhere to exist. That's nowhere to exist. So, in closing, thank you for tuning in today. And if you would like to support my podcast, you can, I believe there's a link here. You can visit anchor.fm/BC Starks/support. I think I said that right. But depending on the platform that you're listening on, whether it's YouTube, it'll probably be in the description. If it's on Instagram, it's probably in the caption or in my stories somewhere, somehow, some way. Or you can visit my website. I know there's a listen to my podcast tab on my website that'll take you there. Thank you for being a part of the community. And until next time, take care.